Diddy gets very bad news, braces for heavy sentence after judge's latest request signals. Guys, what I'm about to tell you is going to absolutely shatter everything you think you know about where the Diddy case is heading. The judge just made a move that has sent shockwaves through the legal community, and when you understand what this really means, you're going to realize that Sean Combs is in way more trouble than anyone imagined. This isn't just bad news. This is game-changing, life-altering, freedom-ending levels of catastrophic for Team Diddy. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into a judicial chess move that's so strategic, so calculated, and so absolutely devastating that even seasoned legal experts are sitting up and taking notice. What happened in that courtroom isn't just routine legal procedure. It's the beginning of what could be the most thorough judicial takedown we've seen in years. Here's what went down that has everyone talking. Diddy's legal team thought they were being clever when they requested comparable Mann Act cases from both prosecution and defense. They figured they'd find some precedent where someone facing similar charges, 1 to 2 Mann Act counts with no prior criminal history, got a slap on the wrist, or maybe some community service. They were fishing for ammunition to argue for leniency, hoping to find cases where defendants walked away with probation or minimal jail time. But here's where this story takes an absolutely wild turn that nobody saw coming. The judge didn't just approve their request. She expanded on it in a way that should have Diddy's entire legal team breaking out in cold sweats. Because when you really understand what this judge is doing, you realize she's not looking for ways to go easy on Sean Combs. She's building an absolutely bulletproof foundation for the kind of sentence that's going to keep him locked up for a very, very long time. Now, before we get into the absolutely mind-blowing implications of this judicial strategy, let's address the elephant in the room. Social media has been going crazy with people thinking Diddy might actually walk free from all of this. Comment sections are filled with celebrations. People are acting like he's already beaten the RICO charges. But here's the reality check that's going to hit like a freight train. Even if the jury somehow ignores all the victim testimony, even if they completely disregard everything Jane and Cassie went through, Sean Combs is still facing serious federal Mann Act charges that carry significant prison time. And this is where the story gets absolutely insane. Because while everyone's been focused on the flashy RICO allegations and the celebrity drama, this judge has been quietly working behind the scenes to ensure that regardless of what happens with those charges, Sean Combs faces serious consequences for his alleged actions. Let me break down what's really happening here, because the legal strategy at play is so sophisticated that it's honestly kind of terrifying. There are really only 2 possible interpretations for why this judge requested comparable Mann Act cases, and neither of them is good news for Diddy. The first possibility, and this is what Team Diddy is probably hoping for, is that the judge is genuinely exploring leniency options. Maybe she's looking for justification to impose a lighter sentence, researching parole eligibility, or considering probation. But here's why that theory falls apart the moment you examine the evidence. This is the same judge who called Diddy violent during his bail hearing. This is the same judge who argued that his community ties actually made him more dangerous to society, not less. This is the judge who had multiple victim letters on her desk describing Sean Combs as an active threat to their safety and well-being. So if she's not looking for ways to show mercy, what's she really up to? The second interpretation is absolutely chilling for anyone rooting for Diddy, and it's the theory that has legal experts nodding in agreement. She's systematically building a case against leniency. She's creating a documented precedent review that will justify whatever harsh sentence she's planning to impose. She's essentially constructing legal armor around her decision to ensure it survives any appeal attempt. But wait, it gets so much worse for Team Diddy. And this is where the story becomes absolutely fascinating from a legal strategy perspective. This judge isn't just making random decisions. Every single move she's made has been calculated to create what lawyers call judicial cover. She's protecting herself against future claims of bias while simultaneously building an unshakable foundation for a devastating sentence. Think about it this way. When Diddy's team inevitably appeals whatever sentence she hands down, and they absolutely will appeal, they'll have to argue against a judge who can point to comprehensive research into comparable cases, documented consideration of all possible sentencing options, and a thorough review of established legal precedents. She's taking away their biggest appeal arguments before they can even make them. The timing of this request is absolutely perfect from a strategic standpoint, too. By asking for these comparable cases now, she's giving both sides ample opportunity to present their arguments about appropriate sentencing. She's following every procedural requirement to the letter, which means there's virtually no grounds for claiming the process was unfair, rushed, or biased. But here's the part that should have Diddy absolutely terrified, and this is where we need to talk about the language this judge has already used in official court documents. During he bail proceedings, she didn't just deny bail with some generic reasoning, she went absolutely nuclear with her justification, and the specific words she chose are going to haunt Sean Combs for the rest of his legal proceedings. She officially designated him as a batterer in court records. Now, that might sound like just another descriptive word, but in legal terms, that designation is absolutely massive. It's not casual commentary. It's an official judicial finding that establishes a pattern of violence rather than isolated incidents. It shows the court views the allegations against him as credible facts rather than unproven accusations. And here's something that makes this even more devastating. Diddy apparently enrolled in some kind of battery intervention program before his legal troubles exploded into the public eye. You know what the judge sees when she looks at that enrollment? Consciousness of guilt. She sees someone who knew they had a serious violence problem and was trying to do damage control before everything hit the fan. That enrollment isn't helping his case. It's actually making things worse by demonstrating that he was aware of his alleged violent tendencies. The judge also described his alleged pattern of violence as sudden, quick, no warning, and if you understand legal terminology, you know that's absolutely devastating language for someone hoping for community supervision or probation. She's essentially saying he's unpredictable, lacks self-control, and poses an ongoing danger to anyone in his vicinity. That kind of characterization in official court documents creates a legal framework that makes leniency almost impossible to justify. Now let's talk about what's happening behind the scenes with Diddy's defense strategy, because this is where things get absolutely wild. According to sources close to the case, there are rumors that Team Diddy has been trying to silence content creators and influencers who've been covering the case negatively. The alleged timeline: eliminate all the critical coverage by summer, then launch a massive rebranding campaign by fall to rehabilitate Sean Combs' public image. Legal experts are calling this approach the Mother Teresa Hail Mary, basically trying to transform him from accused predator to misunderstood philanthropist in the court of public opinion. But here's the fatal flaw in that strategy. This judge has access to evidence and witness statements that the public, and potentially even the jury, will never see. She's read documentation that would probably change public opinion overnight if it ever became public. The Mann Act charges themselves are absolutely devastating in federal court. And here's why. We're not talking about some minor offense that judges handle routinely. The Mann Act deals with transporting individuals across state lines for illegal sexual activity, and federal judges take these charges extremely seriously. When you factor in Diddy's extensive financial resources, his alleged history of manipulation and intimidation, and the multiple victims who've come forward, you're looking at a sentencing scenario that's absolutely nightmarish for the defense. I've been talking to legal experts about this case, and they're putting the probability of probation or parole at essentially zero. One federal prosecutor told me off the record that given the judge's documented concerns about violence, witness intimidation, and community safety, anything less than significant prison time would be shocking. But here's what makes this judge's strategy absolutely brilliant. From a legal perspective, she's not just preparing to impose a harsh sentence. She's building a framework that makes that sentence virtually impossible to overturn on appeal. By requesting these comparable cases, she's demonstrating that her eventual decision will be based on established precedent rather than personal feelings or public pressure. The three most likely reasons for this comparable case request are all bad news for Diddy, but in different ways. First possibility: she's creating judicial cover to maintain the appearance of objectivity while protecting herself against future bias claims. Second possibility: she's appeal-proofing her decision by ensuring whatever sentence she imposes falls within established ranges for similar cases. Third possibility: she's boundary testing, determining the legal limits for sentencing severity, while considering probation only in theory before ultimately leaning towards significant incarceration. What's absolutely fascinating about this whole situation is how the judge's previous statements create legal and political barriers to any kind of leniency. She's established a narrative of violence, manipulation, and community danger that makes it almost impossible for her to justify a light sentence without contradicting her own documented findings. Think about it from the judge's perspective. If she releases someone she's officially called violent and dangerous back into the community, and that person allegedly reoffends, the legal and professional consequences for her would be absolutely catastrophic. She's protecting the court, protecting potential future victims, and protecting her own judicial record by ensuring Sean Combs faces serious consequences for his alleged actions. The defense team is facing an absolutely uphill battle because they're not just fighting the specific charges, they're fighting against a judicial record that has consistently characterized their client as someone who poses an ongoing threat to society. Every motion they've filed for leniency has been systematically dismantled by evidence of alleged violence, intimidation, and manipulation. Here's something that's absolutely wild to consider. While Team Diddy has been focused on public relations and trying to control the narrative in social media, this judge has been building a legal fortress around her decision-making process that's designed to withstand any challenge. She's been thinking 3 moves ahead while the defense has been playing checkers. The pattern of alleged violence that's been documented in court filings isn't just damaging to Diddy's public image. It's creating legal precedent that makes harsh sentencing not just justified, but almost mandatory. When a federal judge officially designates someone as a batterer who exhibits sudden, quick, no-warning violence, that becomes part of the permanent legal record that follows them through every subsequent proceeding. What's really got legal experts talking is how thorough and methodical this judge has been in documenting her reasoning. She's not making impulsive decisions based on media coverage or public sentiment. She's building a comprehensive legal framework that justifies whatever sentence she ultimately imposes. That level of preparation and documentation suggests she's planning something significant. The reality that Diddy and his team are probably just starting to understand is that this judge views the Mann Act charges as serious federal offenses that warrant serious federal consequences. She's not someone who's going to be swayed by celebrity status, public relations campaigns, or attempts to rehabilitate his image. She's focused on the law, the evidence, and the safety of potential future victims. So while social media continues to speculate about whether Diddy might walk free, and while his defense team scrambles to control the narrative and silence critics, this judge has been quietly preparing what could be the most comprehensive, well-documented, and appeal-proof sentencing decision in recent federal court history. The comparable case request isn't a sign of hope for Team Diddy. It's the final piece of a legal puzzle that's been months in the making. It's the judge's way of ensuring that whatever devastating sentence she's about to impose is so well-researched, so thoroughly justified, and so firmly grounded in legal precedent that no appeal court in the country would dare overturn it. When this sentence comes down, and all signs point to it being absolutely brutal, Diddy won't just be facing prison time. He'll be facing a legal decision that's been so carefully constructed that it might as well be written in stone. This judge isn't just sending a message to Sean Combs. She's sending a message to anyone who thinks wealth, fame, and influence can shield them from the consequences of their alleged actions. The writing is on the wall, and it's written in judicial language that spells out a future where Sean Combs trades his mansion for a federal prison cell. The only question left is how many years that cell door stays locked.